Hi, men of Reddit. I am a project manager at a technology company, and I have heard many comments suggesting that men tend to avoid dating women with demanding careers, supposedly preferring someone with a simpler job, like a waitress, for example. I would love to hear your thoughts and experiences. Do high-achieving women intimidate some men? Does it affect dating dynamics, and if so, how? Story 1. I have dated a few of those women. I never had a problem with it, but they eventually come to the conclusion that they want a man who is equally or more successful than they are. Story 2. I would not. You will always be second to her job. She has every right to pursue that job, and I have the right to remove myself from the situation. Story 3. This answer to this question has been distorted and oversimplified to the point where I think people are being intentionally obtuse. The job is not the issue. What kind of person is she? In high-power, demanding jobs, a certain level of disagreeableness and power play is required. What men, or people in general, do not want are those who bring that attitude into a relationship. But the internet prefers simplicity, prefers sound bites. So this is diluted to men do not like women in high-paying jobs, then further distorted into men do not want independent women. Story 4. People who think they are intimidating are usually just tiresome and lacking in warmth. They also tend to view men who are less accomplished than themselves with deep contempt, and the relationships tend to be unstable, so no thanks. Story 5. My wife is the legal number 2 at a Fortune 100 company. My long-term ex is or was a consultant at a McKinsey, Bain, or Boston Consulting Group firm and does very well for herself. Opinions on how this goes probably vary widely depending on the incomes of the man and the woman. Despite my partners doing very well for themselves, I do just as well. We make very similar amounts of money. I haven't had a problem with it at all. That being said, I've noticed differences in how they act in relationships versus women who have had lower paid or more relaxed professional jobs than me. Women that I've been with in high-powered careers tend to be less generous in relationships in more ways than one. How that plays out in each relationship can be different. Less desire to be giving sexually, less willingness to help out as much with chores or cooking, and somehow more expectation of being provided for. Expectations for the relationship get more expensive, like trips and expensive gifts rather than dinners out. But the end result is the same. Women I've dated who are high-powered are both more demanding and less giving. Ultimately, from my perspective, only perceptions of high-powered women stem more from actual behavioral differences in how they treat a relationship versus women in less professional positions. Story 6. Do high-achieving women intimidate some men? Does it affect dating dynamics, and if so, how? For most successful people, there is a certain attitude they have to maintain to get to where they are and stay there. Man or woman, that attitude is rarely pleasant to be around in a relationship setting. Most of them don't have a great way of being home self and work self. This is what many men are wary of when dating someone in that circumstance. In addition, successful people don't usually have a lot of free time and aren't known for their ability to just relax and unwind. When or how would you even see each other if you were working long hours during the week? Whether the assumption is true or not, it is seen as a potential headache for men that has been misinterpreted as them being intimidated. The world is a big place. I'm sure there are some down-to-earth female vice presidents who are approachable, but she is likely dealing with challenges created by her peers. Story 7. Framing this as an intimidation issue will not get you anywhere quickly. The simple truth is, if you are engaged in such a demanding career, you do not have time for everything. There is a reason that neurosurgeons never seeing their family is a meme. There simply are not enough hours in the day for people to be supremely dedicated to a career, take care of themselves, and have a high likelihood of maintaining a fulfilling relationship for both parties. No one in your position is setting themselves up for true long-term relationship success, regardless of their circumstances. Story 8. The only reason I would avoid it is because you are used to, and expected to, likely failing to establish boundaries by working after hours for long periods of time. You are in a major technology company and a manager, so I would not believe you if you say you have the ability to switch off at 5 p.m. It is all about the company culture, not your actual career. I have experience with situations like this and have had many nights ruined because people had to work until midnight and were constantly stressed. Story 9. I think there is a belief that men avoid dating women who have demanding jobs because of insecurity. While some men may feel that way, the reality is that successful women generally prefer men who are also very successful. However, the catch is that very successful men often do not care if their partner is equally successful. This indifference is not due to insecurity, but because ambition and career drive are not typically sources of attraction or arousal for men. If a man is very rich and successful, he does not necessarily become more attracted to women who are also ambitious. This does not make an ambitious woman less attractive. What tends to make these men avoid successful women is the desire for polarity in the relationship. For example, if a man is an emergency doctor working 80 hours per week and earning $300,000 annually, and his partner has a similar workload and income, the relationship can face significant stress because both individuals are under high pressure. Men often want their partners to balance their stressful lives. One quality men find very attractive but is seldom mentioned is having a partner with a low-stress lifestyle. There is nothing better than spending time with my girlfriend after a long work week, hearing about how peaceful and stress-free her week was, and experiencing her calm and relaxed energy. If she were just as stressed as I am, the relationship likely would not work. Story 10. It's all about how they handle it. I have been with women in high authority positions, having people under them. They loved coming home to not be in charge. Others don't know how to turn that off. I dated a couple of lawyers before, and they do not know how to turn that side off at all. Story 11. I'm intimidating is a cover for I am a huge asshole every single time. The phrase itself is a massive red flag. Story 12. This is my wife. She is a six-figure director at a Fortune 500 company. She works from home and wears sweatpants all day. I come into her home office, pet the dog, and crack jokes to her when she is on mute in meetings. Her job, title, and salary mean literally nothing to me. Story 13. It is just that people with demanding careers, both men and women, have trouble maintaining intimate relationships. Women dating men with demanding careers face the same issue. There is an upside, however. A partner with a high-powered, demanding career usually brings in a significant income. For one reason or another, men are often not interested in this when looking for a partner. Most women tend not to be interested in men who are less materially successful than they are, so there is nothing she brings to the relationship that the men she prefers do not already have. There is also the issue of being masculine versus being feminine. Acting feminine does not usually help much in the job market. This is one of the biggest critiques feminists have of our economy. To maintain a highly demanding career, a person needs to cultivate a tough-minded attitude. One must be assertive, competitive, and able to drive a hard bargain. This attitude is hard to switch off after work, which is a common complaint women have about their high-profile, successful partners. For one reason or another, men seem even less attracted to this attitude. Story 14. Not ideal for me because it means we are never off the clock. I have been in demanding jobs and I know how it never ends. I would not want to date someone who is dating essentially as a mere side quest for her demanding job. If you are at a point where you have optimal work-life balance, you are more ideal. Just make sure you do not bring the same corporate boss energy to your personal life. Off the clock, you have no direct reports aside from children, and your priorities are not automatically directives for others. Story 15. I have never heard another man say he wants a partner who is a waitress. I think some men would avoid dating someone like a lawyer or chief executive officer, but not because of the power differential. Personally, it is because of work-life balance. I do not want to be with someone who works 70 hours per week. That is not fun. I work my 40 hours and want the rest of the time for myself and my partner. My girlfriend and I make about the same and work about the same hours. I think this is important because our schedules line up and we can spend a lot of time together or alone together. Story 16. It is not the high-powered part that is off-putting. It is the demanding part. If she is working long hours under a lot of stress, bringing her work home, and interrupted by work phone calls and emails, then that is not conducive to having a healthy relationship. This would be the case regardless of the genders involved. Story 17. Nobody really objects to a higher earning partner. What they resist is their lording it over them. In this case, it depends on how much work they have done to unpack their ideas on gender roles and how much their social circles expect them to justify or defend their partners deviating from traditional expectations. Beyond that, ambitious careerists are not generally known for being great partners, often devoting most of their energy to work. For example, ask the spouses of doctors how they feel about their partners' careers. There is almost always some residual pent-up frustration. Story 18. We are not intimidated by your career at all. However, believing that because of your job you can look down on other people and act rudely is what we do not like. Be kind and thoughtful to everyone, regardless of your job, title, or how much money you have. Earning more money does not make you a better human being, nor does having a higher title. No, it does not mean we dislike women who want to be businesswomen or seek to improve their careers. That is completely fine. We are just not here to compete with our partners. The world already has enough competition. We also do not want to be bossed around. Work is work, and outside work is outside work. At the end of the day, we all want peace and kindness, but it seems some successful people do not. Also, the role of manager is far from complex in my opinion. We have all seen many managers doing nothing or believing that excessive meetings and rushing non-urgent tasks are productive. There are far more difficult jobs in the world than being a manager. This is not directed at you personally, but the idea of simpler jobs made me chuckle. Story 19. Depends. In principle, no, not a problem. In fact, I would say it is a positive. However, high-powered and demanding careers mean different things to different people. I ended a relationship with a woman who had a demanding career. She worked twice as many hours as I did and earned a little more. Neither of us at the time were high earners, just slightly above average. But it also left me doing 90% of all household work, and she was always too tired to do anything at the weekend. It felt like she was sacrificing both our lives for not much money. I was not comfortable with that. Story 20. As some have already mentioned, it is perfectly acceptable and normal for you to see your work as a priority. If it is in a competitive and chaotic area, it takes up a large part of your time and energy. That is just how it is. However, it is equally understandable that another person may not want to get involved with someone who has this lifestyle. This applies to both men and women. This type of preference tends to be more visible in men because of the qualities they usually seek in a relationship. The truth is that, on average, men and women are very confused about what motivates the other's interest. Women generally seek motivated, successful, focused men with varied and broad experiences. That is why they often assume that men would seek these same personality and behavior traits in their partners. In the overwhelming majority of cases, that is not what happens. Men prefer warmth, support, a relaxing environment, emotional comfort, and the absence of conflict. Of course, these are not the only factors. For example, physical attraction is important. But assuming that attraction already exists in the first place, then the above criteria come into play. A woman who has an extremely competitive and tiring career most likely needs to develop behavior and priorities adjusted to survive in this type of environment. In most cases, these are personality and behavior traits that are not the most desired by most men. Obviously, a woman being competent, intelligent, capable, and having a good career are positive things. But on the scale of priority, they are not even a fraction as important as other qualities like how caring, attentive, kind, and understanding she is. Her career and work achievements are primarily benefits and achievements for herself, but they do not contribute directly to the relationship itself. Story 21. Men are not intimidated by women in demanding careers. Women with demanding careers are often very dedicated to their jobs, work long hours, and have very little time for anything else. For men looking for someone to start a family with, it is not a first choice. Story 22. The general consensus is that men do not care about a woman's career ambitions. It is just not a high priority for what men value. That being said, your career can cause you to compromise on other things that men value, and it often does. Then it becomes a major problem. Personally, I would date a woman who has a demanding career, but if she cannot put that second to a family, I would never commit to her. Story 23. Do high-achieving women intimidate some men? Why is that always the question? Do you really think there couldn't be any other reason than he's scared by how impressive I am? Show some humility. Does it affect dating dynamics, and if so, how? You might not be aware of this, but we can see and hear the negative things that women in these positions say about men who earn less than them. We can see and hear how they tend to objectify and dehumanize men. Despite their success under equality and their opposition to patriarchy, they still use the principles of patriarchy as a standard to judge whether a man is worthy or not. It's interesting how that works. Why do men avoid high-earning women? Because many men, or at least the loudest ones that no one criticizes, disagree with or acknowledge, behave poorly, and we can see and hear them acting that way. Story 24. It depends. If she is working long hours, leaving no time for me, then no. What would be the point? But if she has some time for a relationship, then that would be fine. Her job does not matter, her availability does. Story 25. The career and power are not inherently scary, but the lifestyle attached can be a real turnoff. Edit. A different man may be turned off by the lifestyle attached to a waitress, though. Story 26. I would be fine with it, but almost all of them want someone who is in the same type of high-intensity field, and that is not me. Story 27. My wife of 22 years is an executive director in finance for a government agency. She makes over 3 times what I make. Personally, I love that she is ambitious and not someone who settles for good enough. Story 28. I am not intimidated by their work, but rather think that they would be so preoccupied with it that they would have very little time to spend with me. Everything would be planned down to the minute to maximize efficiency. I know many influential high earners, and everything they do seems very strategic and logical. I want to laugh more and have fun. It is hard to do around people who are too serious all the time. I am a male massage therapist, and I know many people in those roles in society. They schedule their time with me to help them relax after a stressful day at work. I am rather efficient at what I do too. I am undateable because of it. Story 29. Nobody cares if you have a good job. They care when your good job is your entire personality, when you constantly talk yourself up for it, or let it consume your every waking moment. Story 30. I either do not care or it can be a downside. Money is irrelevant. Professional achievements are irrelevant. However, if she is too busy to spend time with me, that is very relevant. Story 31. I do not think you know what that word means. The problem women like you suffer from is that you care too much about this status marker, while it does absolutely nothing for the man. When he turns out not impressed, you realize you have nothing else to offer, yet you randomly conclude it must be because he was intimidated. Story 32. Speaking generally, men who have issues with this type of woman have the following problems. 1. High-powered, demanding careers tend to require specific traits, and these men do not find those traits attractive. The time demands of such a career may mean they cannot have the type of relationship they wish to have. They do not earn as much, so they feel like failures as men. They are aware of general trends where women are more likely to divorce their husbands if they out-earn their husbands, so they avoid these women based on the odds. Insecurity because they will be around men of a similar type who may leave them for these women. They want a more traditional relationship, and this does not fit with that. They perceive that a relationship and family should be the priority in life, and the career will likely get in the way of that. Story 33. It is not the career as much as the boss babe mentality. It is really exhausting and is equivalent to what women say about a man with a modified truck. Story 34. It is not really an issue unless they are the managerial or executive type. It feels like being in a relationship with a human resources department. Story 35. You can have any job you want, but I prefer my partner to be able to switch off, not to be at the beck and call of her employer outside of working hours. That is her time. I want her to spend time with me, or her friends, or do her hobbies, and not be replying to emails or attending meetings at night. The job can be as high-powered or demanding as you like, but if she is not managing her work-life balance, either by her choice or her employer's, then that will probably be an issue for me. Story 36. Wife is a lawyer and breadwinner. I feel like the only negative judgment was from our parents. Forget them. Be happy. Story 37. I would love to date a woman who has a life and does not expect me to bankroll all her activities. That is just icing on the cake. Story 38. If it is their whole personality, then it is a hard pass, but I have nothing but respect for women who have good jobs. Also, my partner and I are a team. The more money we bring in, the better it is for both of us. It does not matter who brings it in. Story 39. Hey, original poster. I have a genuine question for you. A lot of men, including myself, say they want an ambitious woman, and it seems many in the comments feel the same. But there is a caveat worth discussing. If you are the higher earner in your relationship, do you split expenses evenly, or do you take on more of the financial responsibility? Traditionally, when men earn more, they are often expected to cover more of the bills while also helping with chores. So I am curious, do you apply that same standard in reverse? Or do you expect to split the bills evenly, even if your job is more demanding and you do not have as much time for other responsibilities at home? In other words, does your partner benefit financially or emotionally from you being a high earner? Or does your higher income shift the power dynamic in a way that adds pressure or changes expectations? Because if that is the case, I can see why some men might prefer a lower earning partner, someone with more time to contribute in other ways, leading to a more balanced dynamic. Story 40. High-powered doesn't affect me at all. If anything, it shows stability, reliability, and self-sufficiency, which are all attractive. Demanding, on the other hand, can be an issue in relationships. You need to have enough time for the relationship and prioritize the other person to a high enough degree. If I am always competing with your work for time, it will be a problem. Demanding professions often require long hours and introduce stress into your personal life, whether you want it or not. As long as it is properly balanced, I would not care, but it needs to have clear boundaries. As a software engineer, large technology companies such as Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google, or whatever the current group of dominant firms from the financial sector, are not typically known for work-life balance, which is why I avoid them. Story 41. My ex-girlfriend is a surgeon. She makes a lot of money, but personality-wise, we would not work out. Focus on her as a person. Story 42. I am a 42-year-old male. My girlfriend has a very high-powered and demanding career. I have had the pleasure of seeing her work. She is extremely intelligent, which is part of what makes her so incredible. I love that about her. Frankly, she does not need me at all, not financially in the least. Some women I have dated with simple jobs end up making me feel like they need me for financial reasons, and that can affect my mindset. But this woman does not, and while I like to pay for dates and things, she goes out of her way to ensure I do not feel obligated and often covers dates and events for us. For me, I prefer this arrangement as long as it is not all-encompassing. Story 43. I think you're mixing a few things. A lot will depend on you and a lot will depend on the man. Personally, since I am married, take this with a grain of salt, but if I were single and we were dating, I would love to be with an ambitious, educated career woman. I would be fine if you made more than I did. That wouldn't even enter into my thought process. Although, if you were bad with money, that would probably be a deal breaker, but that is another conversation. What would get old fast is if your job were all-consuming. If I never saw you because you were always traveling for work, always working late, or always too tired, stressed, or burned out that you spent all your downtime sleeping or decompressing, then we would have problems. If you had no personality outside of work, I would probably get bored quickly. If you couldn't turn off boss mode when you came home or were highly confrontational with everyone, we probably would not last very long. If your job caused you to neglect yourself physically, emotionally, or mentally, I would be gone. This gets more pronounced as you get older. You're talking about intimidation being an issue, though I think it is more about compatibility. I do not think that your career would be a problem for many career professionals who can easily identify with you and might be in a better position to empathize with your situation. The bigger problem is that a career man may have the same issues you do: too busy, too absent, too tired, limiting the dating pool. Story 44. I don't care as long as they act like good equal partners. Like men, women with money, status, and independence can display all the worst behaviors of a bad partner. Narcissism, control, domination, entitlement, emotional and physical neglect, criticism, condescension, superiority, lack of accountability or empathy, or independence to the point where the partner cannot do anything loving or caring for them. Often this enables all the toxic stereotypes of either gender. Trying to share a life with someone who will not or cannot share is miserable. Story 45. As long as she is a good person and good to me, I could not care less whether she is high-powered or low-powered. Story 46. Freaking awesome. Never home, order takeout, the remote is never missing, and you are never late because she is never there. However, if you want a wife, no chance. Story 47. Very few people acknowledge that they do not like it, and even fewer on Reddit will disclose it here. Many men do not want to be the junior partner in the relationship. Many women do not want a man to take that role either. You may find it hard to date peers because they, like you, often pair better with someone more support-oriented. There is no stigma against women providing this role or the men who date such women. However, women often stigmatize support-oriented men. They feel they are dating down and may feel judged by their female peers. Story 48. It's not really for me. I know the stress that comes with that life. I have a high-tempo job in sales that wears me out. I want someone who has bandwidth for me, not another person to sit and experience burnout with. Give me a simple woman who builds me up when I am home, and I will give her the world. Story 49. If she has no time to spend with him, he will hate it. Other than that, no man cares what job a woman does. Story 50. Depends on the type of relationship. If it is long-term, then it is self-explanatory. Lots of drive and accomplishments, which is impressive because I am also ambitious and have a Doctor of Philosophy degree. They typically want it all. A high career, family, hobbies, travel, fitness, which can be a strain. The man would have to keep up or not be insecure. If it is a more casual or friends with benefits situation, sometimes I have seen highly successful, driven women who want a break from being at the helm and in charge all the time. They look for a masculine man who will take charge, including in bed, to physically relieve all that stress. I know it sounds blunt, but I am not being facetious. Story 51. Your job is irrelevant in most cases. What matters is how he experiences you. Women with stressful jobs are usually unpleasant to be around. I have dated 2 doctors, women who work cashier-type jobs, and everything in between. Women with demanding jobs often take on masculine traits to succeed at work. That may be great for your career, but it can be a repellent for men. Also, he will have to compete with your job for your time and attention. No thanks. Story 52. I wouldn't say intimidated, but career-focused women tend to make their jobs the most important thing in their lives, as if they have something to prove to the world. A job is a means to acquire money. To me, that's it. I don't want myself or our potential future children to play second fiddle. Also, I can't stand corporate jargon, so hearing that on calls or elsewhere is an unattractive trait to me. Something I hadn't considered before dating a woman who was a manager in the corporate world. Story 53. It depends on whether she is a workaholic, a sweet person, or authoritarian in private life. I can personally separate life from work completely. In my experience, for women, it is not the same. They take work more personally rather than as a way to pay bills. By the way, I have a good career and a good job, but my job does not define me. Story 54. Hard to generalize. Personally, I am much more turned off by a woman with no job prospects. Also, I am not sure that women being career-oriented actually influences the man's decision so much as it influences the woman's. I am extremely career-oriented and have quite a lot of female colleagues and friends doing academic careers who are still or again single in their mid-30s. They all have one thing in common. They have extremely high expectations when it comes to education, money, and looks. For example, one of my friends has only dated maxillofacial surgeons since I have known her. Meanwhile, male colleagues I know have a diverse dating history. So, I do not think this comes down to what men think. Story 55. As long as they can turn off and enjoy their life outside the office, I don't care. I dated a corporate lawyer for a long time. She was never able to just relax. Even when things were going well, she was always on edge. I didn't like that. She was giving off weird energy. I'm dating an engineer and department head of a major mining company now for a few years. She is able to separate her work and home life a lot better and is much more enjoyable to be around. Even if work is difficult, she can compartmentalize and leaves it at work. Story 56. I would not mind. Also, I do not mind if she works 1/2 day a week walking dogs or something. She can do whatever. Story 57. If they are happy doing what they do, then why do I care? As long as it is not just work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, at that point I would be just doing my thing, which I can do without the need to worry about anyone else. Story 58. If she refers to herself as a girl boss or any other gendered cliché, then no. Otherwise, I am only interested in women who are educated and career-oriented. Story 59. It has nothing to do with intimidation, despite what many women believe and claim. Many men are not attracted to high-achieving women because those women tend to be more aggressive, strongly assertive, controlling, bossy, and want to take charge of too much while prioritizing work and personal goals. It is less about the woman's position and more about how she behaves within the relationship, as these women tend to act in relationships the same way they do professionally. Their ambitions often take center stage. My mother is a high-achieving businesswoman who broke several corporate glass ceilings in the 1980s and 1990s. She was a good mother, and I have the utmost respect for her. However, she has been divorced twice and has not kept a boyfriend in the last 10 years because she tries to be in charge of everything and has a my way or the highway mentality, which puts many men off. I have dated a few high-achieving women who exhibited these same traits, and the relationships did not fare well. I have a high income, much higher than the women I have dated, and own several businesses. I have consistently had trouble dating overly aspirational, high-achieving women. Story 60. As long as they are not the girl boss type where it is their entire personality, it would not be an issue. As a project manager, you probably do not need to worry about it being too demanding. Story 61. I do not care what she does for a living. That said, I am limited by my economic level, as I tend not to meet women far above me in earnings. But if I like her, whether she is a chief executive officer or a fast food worker, it does not matter. Story 62. I think the hours and the type of personality required to get and maintain a high-powered job might be a bigger deterrent. For example, my wife used to work at a law firm as a paralegal. She commented that every lawyer seemed to have some kind of personality or social disorder. Talking to them in casual conversation felt like talking to a sitcom character that everyone dislikes. I did not understand until I met some of them. They are nice enough not to be hated outright, but they are definitely not winning any charisma or personality awards anytime soon. Story 63. If we are both paying our own way through life and are content with the time spent with each other, then there are no issues. If you have one job that pays well and you still have enough time for me, then I am good. It becomes a problem when people spend 18 hours a day doing something like work, taking care of children, friends, or hobbies, and will not take a little time from something to give to me. I do not want scheduling time with a partner to feel like making a dentist appointment. Story 64. I don't think I would mind it, as I am a data engineer in a very stressful industry. However, if her career defines her personality, then I am avoiding it. Way too one-dimensional for my dyslexic mind. High-achieving women are not intimidating. They just bore me. Story 65. It is not necessarily that I am against it. My first concern is that I do not have such a job, and I am not really working towards anything, so I doubt I would even be on such a lady's radar. Then there is the notion that a driven lady will not be warm and loving. I am sure that is not the rule, but it is the stereotype. Story 66. I am married to a woman who used to have a very high-powered job. She made more than I did and still does. We are both now retired. I found she wanted an equal partner, someone she could unload her career on, who would listen and not try to fix things. Just listen. I am a composer and musician, and she was in healthcare. Very different jobs. That helped because I could become an open conduit through which her thoughts could be sorted out. I love her and understood this was helpful to her. When we travel, I tend to plan most things. She says she is a just-in-time girl, but I think she likes to have those decisions taken from her to lessen her mental load. We love each other deeply. Story 67. I have only worked in high-powered, demanding jobs, so it would not be an issue for me. I think many men are more concerned with how she would treat him rather than her job, especially if his job is not as prestigious. Story 68. I have dated a few highly successful women in business. They were all very career-focused and avoidant when it came to others. I was always a sixth or seventh priority in their lives. I dated one woman who was a colonel in the military. She earned a very high salary, and the military also paid for her luxury apartment. She still refused to pay for anything on our dates and expected me to do all the work. More than once, she made comments about not needing a man, which I later found was her justification to treat men poorly while expecting to be spoiled like a princess. I ended that relationship. Story 69. I cannot speak for other men, but for me it does not matter. I think I would prefer it, as I am a deep thinker and I enjoy taking a deep dive into complexity and advanced tasks. If I could have a sparring partner who shared my intellectual curiosity, I would be inspired. Story 70. I don't know anyone who cares. Actually, everyone who has dealt with the child support system will likely think the opposite, as long as you are attractive. That waiter is a much bigger risk of having a child with if things go wrong. If a woman is making as much as you or more, you rarely have to worry about child support if things go wrong. This sounds like internet talk. I don't know what a high-powered career is. A job is a job. That mentality may be turning men off. I am a lead engineer. I treat the janitor the same as the site president. Story 71. It's not the career, it's the behavior. In order to be successful in a demanding career, you need certain qualities often considered manly. Most men are simply not attracted to manly women. These men are not intimidated. They are repulsed by personality traits they find unattractive, competitiveness, aggression, and status competition, which women also exhibit, especially on social media. These instincts of repulsion are actually quite accurate. Marriages where the woman earns more, which account for only 13% of all marriages, have a 3.5 times higher divorce rate, representing 43% of all divorces. Most of these divorces are initiated by women. The problem seems to stem from women, who strongly dislike marrying down and resent men who are not providers. However, this is a personal opinion, as there is no reliable data to confirm it. Story 72. I believe it is the opposite of what you are asking. Men do not care what job any woman has. No man is intimidated by a woman high up in the corporate ladder, or a business owner or businesswoman. Women are the ones who will not date below their social or income status. It has nothing to do with men. Men will date a cashier at Walmart or a CEO of Exxon. The facts speak for themselves. How many high executive women do you see dating a construction worker, a plumber, or a welder? Not very many, if any at all. Story 73. Is being a project manager considered a high achievement now? To me, that kind of ego-driven thought is a red flag, especially when it does not seem grounded in reality. Story 74. It's not the job itself, but the attitude that comes with it. I don't like the practical business attitude. I'm sure it's possible for a woman to have a high-powered job without making that a permanent part of her mindset and personality. But I have yet to meet one who did not. Story 75. It is not the job. It is the lifestyle and attitude that come with those kinds of jobs I do not want to deal with. Story 76. It's not the career I dislike, but the attitude that comes with it. Example. I have a very long-term friend who has worked a good while in the Bay Area. She's been in major technology companies for most of the last decade and a half. She had a difficult breakup about 2 years ago, which I supported her through. One of the things she said to me was that she liked that they had been a power couple. Internally, I rolled my eyes. They were two directors in a technology company. They weren't influencing presidents and foreign policy. She also talks to me about a number of her female friends in San Francisco who speak harshly about their husbands and boyfriends, have affairs and boast about them among their friends, but keep their husbands unaware and talk about how foolish they are and the contempt they have for them. When my friend talks to me about her dates and her love life, she repeatedly runs into the same problem. She tries to bring her work status into her romantic relationship. Her partner must be perfect in every way: fitness, wealth, properties, and must make maximum time for her. He must also keep his own issues completely out of her life. I've known her a long time. By every measure, she is pretty, fit, attractive, interesting, worldly, capable, and successful. But I would never, ever, not in a million years date her. Story 77. The vast majority of men are not intimidated by powerful women. That is a myth that women tell themselves to explain why men do not want to date them, without feeling bad about themselves. Some men may not like being with a woman who earns more than they do, but most men could not care less. The truth is usually either that women like that are married to their work, making relationships difficult, or that a significant percentage of women who climb the corporate ladder have unpleasant traits. It takes a certain kind of woman to succeed in those circles, and that tends to overlap with some negative character traits. Many high-powered career women can be difficult to deal with. Story 78. Such women do not intimidate me. Rather, they annoy me. I do not have the energy nor the interest to hustle all the time for career success or monetary wealth. As long as I make enough to cover basic needs, have extra to invest and indulge in things that I like, I am perfectly happy and content. I do not need millions. I only live life once and do not want to be a slave to achievements, which ultimately will not matter when I die. High-powered or career women typically keep urging people like me to do more, achieve more, and earn more. They do not understand that sometimes doing nothing and being in complete silence is uplifting for the soul, at least mine. They are also pedantic about projecting image, such as putting on fancy clothes for events, putting on a show when meeting her wealthy family, or buying things one does not really need, such as a $30,000 watch, because that is what others in her income bracket do. Can be exhausting. All of it fuels mindless consumerism. I am a practical person and do not like superficial things. Our mindsets will be totally different, and that will inevitably lead to arguments and frustration. I will never understand why she needs to do the things she does, and she will never understand why I refuse to do them. If given a choice, I would choose someone who is laid back like me with a flexible career, that is, someone who can generate money from passive income, creative pursuits, or projects. Someone who is not always working and hustling and has time for more meaningful things in life. So we can go on adventures together without caring what society thinks of us. Story 79. Interesting reading the comments. I think there is a massive misunderstanding from women when it comes to the dynamic. We do not feel intimidated or insecure. It is more about what we are in the relationship for. We want kindness, caring, relationship building, and time together. If you are in a demanding job and make it your whole personality, then it is simply not fun. I have been in a relationship with a career-oriented woman who was mean, demanding, aggressive, and made her whole personality about work. We also had no time together. I have been with someone in a typical job who enjoyed hiking, movies, cooking, and so on, and the relationship was fun. Story 80. How do men generally feel about dating women with high-powered or demanding careers? I'm a project manager at a major technology company, and I've heard many comments suggesting that men tend to avoid dating women with demanding careers, supposedly preferring someone with a simpler job, like a waitress, for example. More than anything, men want a woman who will be happy with them. If she is not happy, she will make him miserable, and he has no interest in that. Men usually do not enjoy dating waitresses either. It is a difficult lifestyle. No evenings and weekends off, unpredictable hours, and often stressful in a way that affects home life negatively. I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences. Do high-achieving women intimidate some men? No. Most men are thrilled to date such women. Does it affect dating dynamics, and if so, how? Usually yes, because women with demanding careers often have specific ideas about what they want in a partner. They typically dislike men who prefer to relax excessively. Story 81. Yeah, this has to be a bot, but men are not intimidated by how much a woman works or makes. We do not even care if you work a lot. You all are the ones who made money important, so it depends on the woman really. Can the woman not feel superior to a man if she makes more money than him? That is the real question because that is usually how it ends up. Story 82. In my experience, women in those positions are very demanding and assertive because that is what they need to be. They are essentially their male counterparts, and we all understand how those men are. Story 83. I have worked hard in university and my career and want to be around other intelligent people who have achieved success through their hard work. Story 84. I would love it mostly because it would alleviate fears on my end. For men, when you become successful, the risk is someone taking half or more of what you have built because they get bored of your marriage. A woman having her own source of success removes much of that fear. I am fully committed to finding someone successful to build with. Power couple for the win. Story 85. As long as they do not bother me or shame me about having a job that is not as high-powered and demanding, I am okay with it. Story 86. Having a good career is a must for me. I want someone who is intelligent and ambitious, someone who can match my energy in these areas and fit comfortably within my social circles. Story 87. No issue with it. My ex was one of them. The issue is when they want me to push to do more. No, I make $150,000 plus bonus and stock. I am good. We are good between the both of us. Story 88. Would not mind being a male maid who takes care of the kids. Jokes aside, I actually do not mind, but I also do not like traditional gender roles. Men who have a more traditional idea of how gender roles should be performed usually hate it. To them, the woman needs to be below them in the family hierarchy, and below that are the children and the pets. The only thing I would hate is if she does not have enough free time to do things together. Otherwise, why should I care? Story 89. The job itself does not matter at all. You could be an astronaut, neuroscientist, doctor, or pirate. It makes no difference. It is the apparent attitude of "you have to be at my level" that is possibly the biggest turnoff, aside from being overly religious. If you lord it over people or constantly bring up the money you make, I am out. That is off-putting and unwise. The same applies if I were interested in men. No one cares. Story 90. Not a problem for me. I'm not going to expect her to take care of me either because I make my own money. I'll support her and be her biggest supporter. However, it becomes a problem when she starts seeing me as less than or becomes disrespectful because of the wage difference. It is unfortunate that some people strongly believe that a woman should not be with a man who makes less than her, but it is acceptable the other way around. Story 91. I always felt different and wanted more of a peer. There was generally more understanding of work requirements and a similar attitude. I married that way too. Two professional incomes make a lot more things possible financially and set us up for the future. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.